Make better money choices. Choose a bank that takes your money seriously. Business Watch is brought to you by Nedbank.
Good afternoon. It's a Wednesday. It's 2 p.m. This is Nedbank Business Watch. Thank you for tuning in to Eswatini TV. Do watch us on our YouTube page, Eswatini TV. We are on DSTV as well, channel 286. My name is Lungelele Makabula. Good afternoon once again.
Welcome to the program indeed. And we have really interesting stories developing here in the Kingdom of Eswatini, particularly around SME development. The Kingdom is currently hosting an SME investment roadshow that is bringing together international capital providers and local enterprises, and this is in an effort to unlock financing for high potential businesses. The initiative by the International Trade Center in partnership with government is designed to connect investment-ready SMEs with global investors, while also positioning Eswatini as a credible destination for capital and enterprise growth. We discuss with Theophilus from ITC in studio. At the same time, another issue affecting the country's economic trajectory has come into focus. The Minister of Finance says Eswatini is losing around 4 billion emalangeni annually in unpaid taxes. Now, with the Eswatini Revenue Service currently investigating 926 companies as well as individuals that are suspected of transferring funds offshore through the banking system, much of the unpaid tax relates to VAT and pay-as-you-earn, with some businesses reportedly taking between 24 and 40 months to remit taxes collected on behalf of government. There's another conversation we're going to have with our economist, Sanela Spear, in studio.
And also later today on the program, we replay you an interview where we featured Bagcinile Simelan, who's the team leader sales, who talked about Nedbank's current account. She focused on the benefits and specifications of the account and also got into the benefits of having a credit card. And then later on our last segment, we'll be joined by Bongani for today's market analysis. Do stay with us. For now, let's go for an ad break. We come back with our business news.
Digital helps you make cross-border payments. Human gives you global specialists. Digital allows you to apply for a loan anytime, anywhere. Human connects you to credit experts. Digital puts you in control of your money, while Human connects you to wealth advisors. Digital allows you to freeze, unfreeze, cancel, and reorder your card. Human gives you that personal touch. Digital when you want it. Human when you need it. Get the complete private banking experience with Nedbank Private Clients.
Welcome back. Thank you for tuning in. This is Nedbank Business Watch. We now get into our business news.
Now, first story, the Eswatini Revenue Service has revealed that there are 926 individuals, and that is including companies, that are under investigation for tax evasion for the 4.8 billion emalangeni offshore transfers through the banking system in 12 months, reported earlier this week. Now, speaking during the Business Eswatini's tax indaba at Happy Valley, Ezulwini, the Finance Minister, Neil Reichenberg, says businesses and individuals that evade their tax obligations make the compliant majority to carry an unfair burden, and that erodes trust.
Government's approach to building a predictable, fair, legally objective and user-friendly tax system rests on these three pillars. The first one is expanding the tax base through growth. A narrow tax base overburdens compliant taxpayers and discourages formalization. That is not sustainable. Our strategy is to broaden the base by attracting new investments through targeted, transparent, and performance-based incentives, encouraging the formulation of small and medium enterprises through simplified regimes, and aligning business registrations and tax registration to lower barriers of entry. In simple terms, we want more businesses operating formally, more enterprises growing profitably, and more jobs being created sustainably. When the economy expands, the revenue base expands. The second one, being strengthening compliance and protecting fairness. Fairness is a non-negotiable principle in our tax system, from both sides, from the taxman to the taxpayers. When some evade their obligations, the compliant majority carries an unfair burden, and that erodes trust. We are therefore strengthening existing tax legislation to close loopholes that allow base erosion and profit shifting. Compliance is not about intimidation, it's about equity. The third one is digitization and simplification. We recognize that complexity is a hidden cost to business. Thus, government supports digitization by the ERS, which includes tax filing, payments, and hopefully soon, refund systems.
The Commissioner General of the Eswatini Revenue Service has explained that the 4.4 billion emalangeni tax evasion, which happened through bank transfers in the past 12 months, involves 4.4 billion emalangeni that was transferred by individuals and 0.4 billion emalangeni that was transferred by companies. He says there are currently 926 individuals, including companies, being investigated for these offshore transfers through the banking system. He also says VAT and Pay-as-you-earn continue to be high among taxes that are not being paid.
VAT is problematic. It is causing a lot of headaches. And Pay-as-you-earn, sadly. Why am I singling these two tax types? These two tax types are such that the taxpayer gets their taxes to us through a middle person. That middle person may be the employer in the case of Pay-as-you-earn. It may be business in the case of VAT. So the tax is paid by the employee or the consumer in the case of VAT. Business is our agent. They collect on our behalf from the taxpayer and remit, but we have serious problems here.
Business Eswatini's Chief Executive Inathi Dlamini says they want the tax indaba to create a vital platform for clarity, collaboration, and a shared commitment to sustainable economic growth with the Eswatini Revenue Service.
The Eswatini Revenue Service is in this room. They are not hiding. They are not ambushing anyone. They are here to explain, to clarify, and to help you get it right. And Business Eswatini, we are here to make sure you leave here with more answers and less questions.
The Business Eswatini Tax Indaba this year was meant to engage the private sector on key issues shaping the tax landscape, including taxation of benefits in kind and tax compliance certificate requirements. Reporting, Nelson Dlangamandla, Vuminkosi Nzenisa, Ezulwini.
5 investment-ready SMEs in the agribusiness sector will get an opportunity to make their investment pitches to 6 international capital providers who are in the country through the International Trade Center and the Ministry of Commerce, Industry and Trade. Speaking during the meeting with the investors at Real Villas, Ezulwini on Tuesday night, the Minister for Commerce, Industry and Trade, Honorable Manqoba Khumalo, urged the investors to take time and invest locally.
The gap that we're trying to fix is caused by a few things. Number one, access to finance. Number two, the right entrepreneurship skills. If we are able to forge these intentional partnerships as a consequence of this particular visit this week, I am confident that, number one, those low-hanging fruit in terms of the areas of the economy, the sectors of the economy where you could invest, will propel you to do so really quickly and very productively. I do believe there's a lot of bankable projects across all the sectors of the economy where our impact investors partnering with local MSMEs can make a big difference.
EU Ambassador's representative says they are ready to support the government in creating a good business environment and supporting local businesses, especially micro, small and medium enterprises.
We've seen entrepreneurs act as the backbone of resilience in economies worldwide, and we see the exact same potential right here in Eswatini. That's why the European Union is putting our words into action, currently investing over 14 million euros in skills development across the kingdom, supporting both public institutions and the vibrant informal sector. Our commitment is tangible, whether it's supporting the business one-stop shop or developing the national e-commerce strategy. We help build the modern infrastructure that trade demands. To our visiting investors, I hope to see you here often and that you come back soon.
Eswatini Investment Promotion Authority's Chief Executive Sibani Mgomezulu says government continues to make the business environment very inviting for investment.
We've been overhauling our investment framework to drive opportunity, ensure transparency and predictability for investors in the kingdom. What do we mean by that? Well, we have an upcoming investment conference. We had our first one last year. And at this edition of the investment conference, we will be launching our new investment policy, which is really a framework in terms of ensuring that Eswatini is an attractive place to do business, and that speaks to the needs of investors.
Some of the small and medium enterprises that will be visited by the investors for possible business collaboration include Black Mamba Foods, Luna Hair and Body, Ngwenya Glass, and Beef Boys. Reporting, Nelson Langamandlas Movashongwe, Ezulwini.
All right, and that's it for our business news. It's 11 minutes after 2.
All right, we talked to Sanela Sbia after the break, our economist, and we talk all things that tax conversation that we previewed in our news segment. Welcome back to the program. The Minister of Finance has reported that tax evasion amounts to about 4 billion emalangeni annually, with VAT and pay-as-you-earn being the main contributors. His words were echoed by the Commissioner General of the Eswatini Revenue Service, Brightwell Ngambule, and he says the service is investigating 926 individuals, and that includes businesses for tax evasion through the banking system, which transferred about 4.8 billion emalangeni in 12 months to offshore accounts. We want to understand what this means for businesses that are compliant, as well as how it hurts the economy and affects the delivery of services, with our economist, Sanela Sbia, who joins us now virtually. Thank you for making time, Mr. Sbia. We really appreciate your insights per usual. Minister Neil Reichenberg here saying that we are losing about 4 billion emalangeni annually in unpaid taxes. What would you say from an economic standpoint how significant is this loss really?
Thank you, Mr. Nxumalo. A good afternoon to you and also to the viewers. So just to make it easier for you to understand, if you remember last year, or just to at least conceptualize for the viewers to conceptualize it, last year, recall we had a budget of 32.6 billion, and I think 29.2 something billion was supposed to be funded through domestic taxes, with the shortfall of approximately 3 point something billion having to be funded through external borrowing or deficit financing. And now we're talking of a country that leaks above about 4 billion in taxes. Now that's that's how you should conceptualize the number. The way you see, if we had collected the tax, probably we would have actually had a surplus in terms of government expenditures last year. So it's quite a serious issue that we need to address as a country. Because what it means is, government cannot effectively run her business due to the fact that we are seeing some sort of leakages, and that results into fiscal difficulties going forward in terms of managing the public purse.
The ERS is investigating north of 900 companies for transferring monies offshore. What does that flight really mean for an economy as small as ours?
So the way we've been looking at this, is people who are interested in tax justice. If you go and read the Tax Justice Network, the Tax Justice Network State of Tax Justice Report for 2024, you realize that approximately 492 billion US dollars per annum they leave, are not taxed, so it's supposed to be taxed. And that is quite one of the things that we are looking into as potential contributors to this problem that we are seeing, where we have a number of companies in Eswatini not being headquartered in Eswatini. So you'd find that it might look as flights, but it could just be accounting and, procuring of services abroad, shifting of monies around. So it means we need, on that level, we need to have a tax system that's going to be quite able to follow those through and be able to, make those determinations whether or not that was supposed to flow out of the country. And then also what it means is we are losing the revenue. So much flight means we are losing revenue. And it also speaks to an issue of compliance. So if you have north of 900 companies that are being investigated, so now that is polluting the pool of compliant taxpayers with those that are non-compliant, and it tends to create distorted markets, because if you're able to evade taxes, then that means you are basically facing lower costs compared to a person who is compliant. So now that is going to give us problems in the long run, because if we can't arrest this problem, then why should we expect other people to continue being compliant when that actually costs them in the end? It doesn't benefit them in any way.
Yeah, we're also hearing that some businesses are remitting VAT and payee for up to 24 to 40 months. What would you say are some of the incentives or weaknesses that are embedded in the system that is causing this?
It could be an issue of, a tough business environment where businesses are using this money, to fund operations because they would have the money within their coffers to use. It could be talking to a tough business environment, or it could be talking to a loophole, because as the Tax Justice Network always reports is, most companies are able to exploit loopholes in the tax code, and thereby being able to circumvent those. So primarily you'd find that even though we know that it's supposed to be remitted month on month, but if people can look through the tax code and realize that it will take us up to a year or two before we start feeling the consequences, then people are going to do that as well. So that means we need to tighten the screws on those in terms of the remittance dates and the following those, and there should be consequences. Fortunately, we've seen that ERS is one entity that is able to ensure that the consequences are felt. So that's why, for me, I would lean more towards a tough business environment more than just exploiting the tax loopholes.
Would you say that when companies hold on to tax-free money for this long, they're essentially using it as interest-free capital to run their businesses?
Yes, essentially. It kind of becomes a subsidy from the taxpayer. So here what you have is a typical a problem where the agent acts in bad faith and keeps the money. So the agent is able to use the money, but it doesn't get to the principal, in this case being ERS and effectively the government of Eswatini. So the agent is able to hold on to the money, and then they're not remitting it to where it's supposed to go. So essentially, we would say they're getting a subsidy from the taxpayers.
Yeah, so what does this behavior then mean for those that are compliant?
Yeah, that's the main problem, because if you have to compete with a person who is not remitting the VAT, and this very same person takes that VAT and is able to use it to compete with you, now that distorts markets and creates somewhat of an imbalance in markets. The compliant ones are somehow becoming less competitive compared to the non-compliant ones, because the non-compliant ones are operating at a low-cost environment, while the compliant ones are operating at a high-cost environment, speaking in the sense of business. So if we do not arrest this problem or solve this problem, then we run the risk of, engendering non-compliance within the tax system, because it then becomes a bit difficult. Or worst case scenario is you would find that the the compliant, taxpayers, tax-paying entities are going to be pushed out of business because they cannot compete at the same footing with these ones. And then eventually, if we allow this to continue happening, we will have a situation where our tax pool is largely dominated by non-compliant, taxpayers, and that's going to give us a huge headache going forward, as we're then going to find ourselves in a position where we struggle to balance the budget and to ensure that services get to the people.
Yeah, we're talking about a lot of money here. If we're talking 4 billion, and I'm just reminded of the conversation we were having on Friday, reacting to Minister Neil's tabling of the budget, and some of the allocations there were less than 4 billion in Malangeni, and this is such, it's a seismic amount of money. And I suppose it begs the question, if 4 billion in Malangeni were to be collected every year perfectly, what difference could it realistically make for public finances as well as development spending?
So what that would mean, if we'd be able to maybe wake up tomorrow and have this 4 billion in government coffers, what it means is, number one, government can be in a position to ensure that her obligations are fully taken into consideration. And, the deficit might not necessarily have to be this high. It would come down, since we'd have a lot of money coming through in terms of domestic resource mobilization. So now that would give government the scope or the fiscal room to fund those areas that we were, thinking they should have more of an allocation. So you'd find that we are able to do more with the money, and the services are able to get to the people. And then in terms of developmental planning, what this does is, as government gets cheated of the taxes, then government always has to make cuts here and there. And once we have to make cuts, Mr. Nxumalo, you'd find that what you want to support through and through would be your fiscal, your recurring expenditures. So then that means these capital expenditures that are driving growth, as we are speaking in the present moment, become one of those points where you go to say, no, let's cut here for now, because you can't cut on recurring expenditures for the most part. So then that means we have to forego a certain amount of our capex just to balance the budget in the absence of this 4 billion in Malangeni, if eventually it will come through. And then what it also means is, in terms of the developmental programs that the government is pushing, for example, make an example of the Rural Development Fund. If right now the Rural Development Fund takes out X amount of loans and supports quite X amount of Eswatini, and then think forward, if we had that 4 billion and they had an increased allocation, so that means now they could support Z amount of Eswatini, which is greater than X amount of Eswatini. So this tax evasion is actually really holding us back in terms of our developmental trajectory as the kingdom.
Yeah, no, Mr. Spear, thank you for your time. Unfortunately, our time has run out. Would have really loved to understand from a macroeconomic standpoint what kind of message this then sends to investors, considering the amount of pressure we want to put in bringing in investment into the kingdom of Eswatini. So let's be our economist chiming into this tax conversation. Let's go for a net break.
the viewers of Eswatini TV in the kingdom and beyond. Eswatini TV is regulated by the Eswatini Communications Commission through the Broadcasting Code and Broadcasting Guidelines. Under these instruments, the station commits to broadcasting information and news that have been fact-checked, programs and content in respectful language with no elements of hate speech, violence or sexual activity. If you hear any unsuitable content on this channel, you have a right to voice your complaints with the station management. Should you not be satisfied with the response or action taken, you can escalate your matter to the Communications Commission at PO Box 7811 Babani. Call 2406 7000 or send an email to info@esccom.org.za. For more information, visit www.esccom.org.za.
Welcome back to the program. 5 investors are currently in the Kingdom of Eswatini through the International Trade Center and the Ministry of Commerce, Industry and Trade. They are here to explore investment opportunities in local micro, small and medium enterprises. It is an initiative, according to the ministry, that focuses on funding skills transfer and building sustainable enterprises that create jobs and expand opportunity. We are now joined by Theophilus Lamini, the micro, small and medium enterprise expert at the ITC, and who will help us really unpack the investment roadshow where these investors will be visiting different small-scale businesses locally. Welcome to the program. A very good day to you. Quite an interesting time in Eswatini because we just enjoyed the speech from the throne a couple of weeks ago, and after it, we saw the budget speech, a lot of conversation around investment, foreign investment into Eswatini, as well as MSME development in Eswatini. The big question, I suppose, would be what specific sectors or businesses are these 5 investors interested in here at home?
Yeah. All right. Thank you once again, Mguni, for welcoming us and giving us the opportunity to be part of the program again. So this activity is sort of a build-up from an activity that we had last year, which was the MSME Investment Conference. And what came out glaringly was the challenges that MSMEs locally are facing. So the program itself focuses on agribusiness and also the handicraft sector. So specifically the 5 investors that are coming in, that we'll be hosting in the country for the next 3 days, are focusing on specifically on those 2 sectors and visiting MSMEs within those 2 sectors. So the MSMEs themselves are very high potential investment cases that we have in the country that are export ready and as well as investment ready.
Yeah, man, we all heard His Majesty the King highlight a very key development within Eswatini, with which Eswatini ranked amongst 10 countries that are business ready within the SADC region or Africa. I stand to be corrected there, but I believe it's in the SADC region. And I wonder, with these investors coming into Eswatini, what would you propose from the ITC's perspective has made our MSME ecosystem attractive for investors to come here on the ground?
Yeah, so there's a number of initiatives that the International Trade Center has been deploying with the support of EU funding from 2021, when the program first started in the country, where these MSMEs have been prepared and geared up to be ready for investment. So I think the investors coming in is testament to those efforts that into the International Trade Center to working together with the Ministry of Commerce, Industry and Trade have been driving towards MSME support in the country.
When we talk investment, that can quite be a broad term, especially when we speak FD, foreign direct investment, FDI, right? Are we talking equity partnerships? Are we talking funding in terms of grants? What are we really talking about? Could it be concessional financing? What is it really?
All right, so mainly maybe just taking you back, the nature of the investors that are coming in is not just your common everyday investment. So they're impact investors, so mainly focusing on social issues, focusing on the development of the MSMEs. They are not just pumping in the money, they are pumping in the money together with technical expertise. So I would say, loosely say, they also want to have their skin in the game, and that's what makes the difference. What also came out glaringly during the MSME conference was that the finance that we currently have, the financial structures that we have in place in the country, are not really responding to the needs of the MSMEs that we have. And hence this opportunity to then invite blended finance, which is also bringing on board your equity, its debt, as well as a mix of both, and just everything across the spectrum that would respond to the needs of the MSMEs.
Absolutely, and reading a lot of your work as the ITC, I do see that funding, yes, is a buzzword as per any investment drive that exists, but I think another, let's say, recurring word has been skills transfer. Which you are quite intentional about as the ITC. I want you to, take a double take on that one as to why is it such an emphasis right now here at home?
Yeah, skills transfer is quite very important. I mean, we living in a global village. These MSMEs are not just competing with MSMEs in the country. We are preparing them to be able to compete with MSMEs globally. And there's the need then to transfer skills from across the board, from those that have advanced. I mean, we do not really need to invent the wheel as a country. There are tried and tested models that we can implement, and then skills transfer then works towards achieving that goal and ensuring that our MSMEs remain competitive and they can trade almost everywhere in the world. I will make an example that the country is also a signatory to the EU SADC Economic Partnership Agreement, which we haven't really fully exploited. And then pumping in the investment will also prepare the MSMEs to actually have the tools and have the competitiveness that will allow them to trade and exploit those opportunities that are presented by these trade agreements.
Yeah, a lot of small businesses, especially here at home, when you listen to a lot of organizations like your organization, is a lot of these businesses struggle to be investor ready, right? And I always ask myself, what does that really mean? But I suppose that begs the question, what criteria are these investors assessing when they're sort of like pinpointing which businesses to invest in?
Yeah, so there's various parameters that they are looking at. As I say, I mean, almost 95% of MSMEs in the country are in the micro sector.
Right.
And then the 5%, that's almost the ones that are almost ready, but they also have a little bit of work to do. So management, in terms of the management structures, the technical skills that they have, financial record keeping, as well as I think one other aspect that has been highlighted by the impact investors that's required and also cuts almost most of the time that is spent in the engagements and leading towards to a fruitful partnership is that transparency is key. And when you're running a small business, you're very optimistic and you really want to get the finance driven into your business. So you tend to hide certain aspects that will be key, but it delays the process and it creates it eliminates a level of trust and delays the process. So that is part of the key aspects that's required, the transparency and financial record keeping, as well as having a very strong management team that backs you.
Yeah. One of, when we talk impact and sustainability, one of the goals that is highlighted within ITC is that you want to create sustainable enterprises that create jobs. You look at the situation in Eswatini, a very high youth unemployment, and juxtapose that with us being a young population, it's quite sad.
Yeah.
how do you then, because these opportunities then look exciting to a journalist like myself, how do you then measure whether that funding that gets in there gives us long-term sustainable enterprises that indeed gives us jobs?
Yeah. Okay, with that too, we also have monitoring and evaluation indicators. So it's not just that we drive the funding towards the MSMEs and then just leave them to swim for themselves and figure things out for themselves. But most of these, take for instance, the equity providers, they come in and they form part of those companies. They form part of the governance structures, which then bolster the efforts and as well as the structures of the entities, ensuring that they remain competitive and profitable.
Yeah.
So that's why our drive is moving more towards impact investing, which will ensure the sustainability of the MSMEs that we're working with.
Yeah, impact investing, I like that term, because it then begs the question, when you look at a lot of MSMEs, not just locally around the world, they fail not because of a lack of ideas, but mostly because of an issue around market access. What plans do you have to expose them to regional and broader markets?
So since ITC has been in the country, we've done a lot of work towards building market access. We have exposed them to most of the international trade centers' marketing tools. We have TradeMap, which is used by economists all around the world.
Absolutely.
Which is a very marvelous tool. Even the educational sector, the academic sector is also using the same. So most of the MSMEs have already been capacitated in terms of locating what markets are there. They know the trade barriers that are there as well as the regulations that are required to access those markets. And just backtracking and going back to your question about the youth, I think we have come to a point where we cannot ignore the challenges that the youth are facing. And that is also why we're bringing in the impact investors, which mostly are focused on youth-operated enterprises and also women-owned enterprises, or enterprises also that are supporting both groups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've worked, of course, when you work with ITC, it means you work internationally, so to speak. You know, you're able to study how a lot of economies operate within this context. And I wonder, when you look at Eswatini specifically, and then you benchmark with everything else, what would you say are the biggest structural challenges that could really, if they were to overcome as businesses, they would get consistent investment?
Yeah. So record keeping is one. And also just challenges, as I mentioned, transparency is also another one. So I think, and access to finance, well, that is the goal of every MSME. But also, I think you also, in terms of accessing the finance, you need to be ready for it. I'll make an example. You're just starting your business. Finance is not really, or credit is not really the way to go. You need to explore other potential sources of funding that you can explore just around you. And then you can only tap into to external funding once you're ready for that, because credit can be a double-edged sword. It can really catapult you to the next level, and it can really chop you down and out of the game.
Yeah.
So you need to really get it when you need it at the right point.
Well, Theophilus, thank you so much for your time. Theo, from the ITC, unfortunately, we've run out of time, but quite an exciting initiative by the ITC, and we hope that our MSMEs will get all the help that they need and that they will learn, and that their enterprises will be sustainable and create jobs. Let's go for a net break. We'll be back shortly.
right, welcome back. You're still watching Nedbank Business Watch. As mentioned earlier, today we are talking about the current account, Nedbank's current account. I'm joined by Bagcinile Simelane, who's the team leader, sales at Nedbank Eswatini. Good afternoon, welcome back.
Thank you.
Last week we were discussing savings account, and today we're talking about the current account. What is Nedbank's current account? Talk to us about the uniqueness of this account. Why should your clients open this current account?
Okay, basically a current account is a non-interest bearing account that is mainly used to service needs for individuals as well as businesses. But today we will be focusing on the individual current accounts. So this is an account that you're able to transact on in any way. You're able to use an ATM card, you're able to access your app, you're able to swipe for when you're buying, and you're also able to send money through to another account or send money to a cell phone number that you want to pay to.
So I know that you're talking about the current account, it's convenience. You've just mentioned I can swipe, I can withdraw money, but can a student actually open a current account? Do they benefit under this account?
Yes, we do have a current account that is specifically for students. So that one is a different account on its own. All they just need to provide is their IDs and the proof of them being students, and then we're able to assist and open their account. So this one also assists with the fact that when they are done with school, when they've graduated, they're able to convert the same account into a salary account.
Yeah.
So that's where it helps them as well.
Okay, so let's talk more about the convenience, because people like convenience more than anything. Let's talk about the features. What benefits are there when you open the current account compared to other accounts?
Okay, you're able to monitor all your transactions as well, either on the app and also through SMS notifications that assist you to check activity on your account. And then with the current account, you're also now privy of applying for loan facilities. You can also apply for a credit card. You can also apply for an overdraft. But terms and conditions apply, so we need to make sure that whoever we're assisting is able to afford that facility that they are desiring at that point.
Okay, so what documents are required for ones to open the current account? Of course, ID, yes, you need to have an ID.
Yes,
and also, do I need to be above 18? Are there, options for people that are below the ages 18?
For the current account, you definitely need to be above 18. And you need to be fully employed, either on contract or on a temporal basis. You have to be employed, because we require your ID or a valid passport, and then we also require your proof of residence. And then we also require your proof of income, which can be either a pay slip or a confirmation letter from your employer. Yeah, confirming that you are employed.
You're employed. Then if you have a business, online business, do I still qualify to open a current account?
Okay, with that one, it's a bit different, because we need to, for the current account, we need to ensure that you have a certain amount of money that is steadily going through the account on a monthly basis, of which that is guaranteed by a pay slip. So with the online businesses, it becomes then a bit tricky for them to even service their accounts, because there's a certain maintenance fee that is charged on the account on a monthly basis. So you find that with our online vendors, they do have issues of sometimes, no, this month didn't go so well for me, so I'm not able to service the account, whereas the charges will be actually going through the account on a monthly basis. So we would advise that they revert to the account that we were talking about last week, the savings account, which is fairly more affordable for them.
Okay, you mentioned loan facilities that you can access via your digital platforms. How easy is it, to qualify for a loan? Who actually qualifies for a loan? Do I need to be with the Nedbank for a certain time? How does it work?
Okay, no, not necessarily be with Nedbank for a certain time. We're able to assist you with the loan facility. Even if you're newly employed, we just need the confirmation that you will receive a salary through this account, and then we have to receive that salary for at least 3 months if you are newly employed, just so that we are able to see the consistency of you getting your salary in the 3 months, because we don't want to find ourselves that you're employed, you get a facility on the first month, whereas you're still on probation, and then after your probation you're not confirmed at work, and yet we've already made this commitment with the bank. Yeah, so we will wait for 3 months. But if you're already employed and you have been receiving your salary, maybe even through another bank, we are able to assist you just on the first salary that will be deposited into the account. We are able to assist you, and you get a loan. Yeah.
All right. So there's two things that people, care about: convenience and charges as well. But now what would say, charge and maintenance fees? I think you did mention them. And my charges would say ingabe emeganjani, compared to other accounts at Nedbank.
Okay. Emma fees, we have two types of current accounts. We have the normal current account, which is a pay-as-you-use type of account that you'll pay for each and every transaction that you will conduct on the account. We also have a bundled fee current account, whereby you are able to transact on the account and have one maintenance fee at the end of the month. So that one helps with those clients that find themselves with a lot of transactions on their account, like you're swiping often, you're withdrawing funds often. So it helps reduce your charges by just bundling up that fee into the account that is called a bundle. So that one charges 140 malangeni per month. And then with the pay-as-you-use, it charges 54 malangeni 70 cents per month. But that one, the pay-as-you-use, it's that maintenance fee, and then you also pay for the other transactions separately when you're swiping, when you're withdrawing funds, when you're sending money to a cell phone number, when you're sending money to another account. Each transaction has a charge.
Okay, so speaking of withdrawals, does this certain account offer free withdrawals, free swipes?
Okay, the free withdrawals and the free swipes, I would say they're available on the bundled fee, because that one just bundles up the charges for the month. But with the pay-as-you-use, every transaction, even if it's the first or second transaction, is charged. Yes.
All right, I want us to talk about credit cards. I know it's not common in Eswatini yet. They use credit cards internationally. So what are the benefits of using a credit card? Do you offer credit cards at Nedbank?
Yes, we do offer credit cards at Nedbank. Also, you just need to go through the qualifying criteria for you to be granted a credit card. Credit cards assist a lot with making online payments, like booking air tickets, also when you're making hotel bookings, because we find ourselves nowadays with the hotels, like the international hotels, they are not looking for a debit card for you to make a booking. Instead, they need a credit card, of which that's where it comes in handy to assist our clients.
Okay, so how does it work? How much do I have to deposit? Maintenance fee, charges?
Okay, it comes with a loaded limit based on how much you qualify for, and then you're able to use that card as and pay when you need it. And then it does have a monthly charge that is also dependent on how much of the funds on the credit card you've used for the month. So it's a percentage that is charged, and then at the end of the month you will be paying that percentage based on how much you've used.
Okay, so can I reload after I've overused the money that you've deposited?
Yes, you can reload. It's actually quite seamless now, because you are able to link your credit card on the app. So therefore, you are able to transfer the funds seamlessly from your current account to your credit card.
All right, so speaking of the app, is it convenient enough? There are customers that are still not tech savvy, and I think you do deal with those a lot.
Yes, we do.
ngiyakhona ngiyisebenzisa kahle nje seamlessly ngihambe ngisebenzisa if I want to do a transaction it's easy if I want to do that isebenziseka kanjani ngebhange?
Yeah, it's quite easy to maneuver through the app because well basically it prompts you and guides you towards what you want to achieve when you are going through the app. So we do encourage our clients to play around it, just go into each and every option so that you also now know that okay, when I want to do this is where I go. Because as much as we take you over, we take you through the app, upon registering and activating it, you find that maybe there's some things that you will forget. But also, when you also find your own time sitting at home, you just go through the app, you go to the transactions screens and you're able to see, oh, I can actually pay for all my bills here, water, electricity, I can buy airtime, I can pay for my TV license, I can send money to Momo as well. So it really does assist in that regard.
Oh yeah, one last question before I let you go.
Yes.
Can I deposit through an ATM with my current account?
Yes, you can. You can deposit through the ATM on all the ATMs that have the functionality of depositing. You're able to deposit directly into your account through those ATMs.
And of course, I can visit any branch to open this particular account?
Yes, you can definitely visit any branch as long as you have the 3 requirements of opening the account. You are able to be assisted.
All right, thank you so much. Lastly, your social media platforms and, of course, your contact details.
Okay, our social media platforms, you can find us on Facebook at Nedbank Eswatini. You can find us on LinkedIn at Nedbank Eswatini. You can also find us on X, the Nedbank Eswatini. And then our contact line is 3278 1999. Then you can also contact our help desk team at helpdesk@nedbank.co.za.
All right, thank you so much, Bagcinile. And for more information, do contact Nedbank branch Eswatini or visit their social media pages. Let's take a break. Start with the program. Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. We're now on our final segment, the market analysis. Joining me now is Sifiso Nsibande from Nedbank to analyze today's market. A very good afternoon, Sifiso. Thank you for coming back. So what's happening in the Middle East, the eruption that is happening, markets are shocked. What is happening now?
Yeah. Thanks for having me once again, Lulu. Yeah, so Saturday morning we woke up to very unexpected news that Israel and the US had bombed Iran, not only bombed Iran, but actually killing the supreme leader of Iran. So that's something big. Obviously, that has, sent some very serious shock waves across the markets. We're seeing some sell-offs. People are actually moving away from risk assets into safe haven. So the dollar, once again, is picking up. It was picking up because of the tension. Now it's picking up for the right reasons because they're actually uncertain about what's going to be happening in future. So stocks are actually coming down. If you look at the stock exchanges, actually, but the JSE, everything is actually going down. The gold is picking up. Now, funny enough is also because of the tension and the uncertainty, oil is also spiked up. And once oil goes up, investors sort of think that there's going to be inflation across emerging markets. So if there's an inflation in emerging markets caused by the rise of oil, it affects transport prices, affects production costs, tariffs, you name it. Then they run away from emerging assets. So that's why actually the dollar, the rand, is actually weakened. So the dollar is strong because investors still consider the dollar as a safe haven. So both the dollar and also the gold is actually experiencing some gains. We actually saw the dollar rand exchange, going up even to 16.7 as of yesterday. But I think today we will we'll look at the
in the interest
currencies.
of time, let's just quickly go through today's numbers, starting off with equities, looking at equities this afternoon.
Yeah, so with equities, as I already said, we saw some sell-offs. Investors are actually saying they're looking for safe haven. So the S&P, FTSE and the JSE all down. Even though a little bit of some gains from the JSE overall because of the price of oil, the price of gold, because 20% of the JSE is actually resources. So we're actually seeing a volatile situation there, but down as compared to yesterday. And then we move on to the commodities. Oil has really spiked up. Right now, we're actually looking at about $85, $86 a barrel, which is quite high. The gold has actually gone up as well, 5,188 an ounce. So those two, gold being a safe haven, is the reason why it's going up. Oil is because of the uncertainty. Actually, this morning, they said the Strait of Hormuz, which is the waterway that transports 20% of the oil, the world's oil, goes through that waterway. It has now been locked. That's why then the price of oil has gone up, and Trump has actually come back to say he's actually recommending that it be reopened, and he's going to escort anything that transport oil through that waterway because of the bombings that are actually going on. And that's why we are seeing these high levels of oil.
Okay, looking at currencies today, how's the lengani against the dollar?
Yeah, so with the currencies, we saw a very strong dollar as of yesterday. Right now it's actually going down because it was actually on the high side. So it actually went up to 16.6. If you remember very well, last week we were doing 15.95, touching a little bit 16, but now it actually went to 16.7. So as of this afternoon, it retreated back to 16.33. I think now the range actually for today is actually between 16.3, 16.8. That's the range where it's actually forecasted to be. The pound and the euro also took the same effect, and that's why we are seeing these levels of negative actually coming down. So it just remains something that to be monitored going forward in terms of what's going to be panning out. We are looking forward to some events that are going to be taking place also this weekend to see if this kind of precipitating situation in the Middle East is actually getting better. Yeah. You find that even flights have been cancelled. To travel around the world now becoming difficult. Dubai, flights are cancelled. Qatar flights are cancelled. So if you are looking forward to travel, even for businesses, you're going to have to look at alternative routes. So it's a situation that's currently, should I say, very tense, and we're looking forward to a situation that will improve, and we see market conditions also improve.
All right. Thank you, Sfiso, for unpacking these figures for us. It's 3 minutes before 3 o'clock. We've come to the end of our program. Thank you for tuning in. You're watching Nedbank Business Watch. Do join us again next week. But for more information on the current account, do not hesitate to visit any Nedbank branch countrywide. We'll see you again next week. Have a lovely day.
Make better money choices. Choose a bank that takes your money seriously. Business Watch was brought to you by Nedbank.
Umswati inkosi ithula akayithathe akahambe nayo akayithathe yenza bakhe